If you're considering a move to the West Houston area and Katy, Texas is on top of your list, congratulations, you have great taste. But moving your entire family across the country or across the state can get pretty overwhelming pretty fast, and making the right decision is more complicated than choosing the house itself. Relocations are inherently stressful, whether you're moving within the state or across state lines. With so many moving parts, decision fatigue can set in pretty quickly, and that's where the mistakes get made. Hi, I'm Carolyn Bauerschlag, a local real estate agent helping people just like you relocate from all over the country right to our great city. And if you're considering a move to the West Houston side, I would love to add you to our client family. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when relocating to Katy is underestimating its size. One of the jokes we say here in Houston is that Houston's an hour away from Houston, and honestly, it's starting to become Katy's a half an hour away from Katy. Now, if you just Google Katy, a lot of times you'll see the city of Katy or Katy ISD or just a big blob of territory on the map. But the truth is that we are our own little metroplex here, and that it's becoming more and more popular, and the population density is extraordinarily high. Here in Katy ISD right now, student enrollment is pushing 100,000 people, which means that the families, the jobs, the support staff, the workers, everyone that lives here are really kind of packed in pretty closely. Now, one common mistake that I've seen people make while underestimating size is they'll say, well, I'm sure if I just move 2 or 3 miles outside of my desired area, it's not going to make that big of a deal in my overall commute. In reality, what you'll experience commuting across Katy is you'll see stoplights, traffic lights, roundabouts, school zones, and all of those things really add up. So 2 or 3 miles on a map might in fact be 10 to 15 extra minutes of commuting in peak times. So what's the hack? It's to sidestep this altogether by making sure before you come for a house hunting trip that you come for an education tour. My best advice is for you and your family to come out during a weekday here in the Katy area before you really start your housing search. You're going to want to feel what it's like to commute during peak hours in the morning and in the evening, and to also check out what the traffic flow is going to be around arrival and dismissal for each one of the schools. Now, speaking of schools, the second biggest mistake I see people make when they relocate to the side is that they are singularly focused on one particular high school or one particular zoning pattern when they move out to Katy. Now, if you're moving to Katy, you know that Katy ISD has a sterling reputation, right? So people get very narrowly focused, and it's understandable as to why. If you're online and you're somewhere in California, Colorado, the middle of the US, and you're Googling best high school in Katy ISD, it's going to yield probably the first, second, and third same names every single time, right? And what this does, I think, is kind of put blinders on buyers where they believe that there are no other better options. But Katy ISD is a 10 high school wide area, and the most popular high schools really are south of I-10. You can almost take a dart and throw it anywhere south of I-10 in Katy ISD and find a school that almost everyone would be extraordinarily happy to attend. As a parent, I understand the impulse for wanting the best for your child, but what I always like to do is gently challenge what the best means for you as a particular parent to your specific child, right? Does your child need a smaller student-to-teacher ratio? Does your child need a really broad 6A athletics program? Is your child really into theater or fine arts? Or does your child need something like special education intervention somehow, right? All of these schools are going to provide excellent services, but they all have a little bit of a different flavor. So what I don't want for anyone relocating to our area is to accidentally cross-cut themselves out of finding a great house that would fit their family's needs just because they Googled what the quote-unquote best is here in Katy. Now, the third most common mistake that I see people make when they relocate to the Katy area is that they drastically underestimate what homeowners insurance is going to cost. Now, most of the time when people Google, they understand completely how mortgage and interest works. They're well aware that Texas has a higher property tax burden than other states, right? But what they don't know is how homeowners insurance is going to impact their monthly or annual carrying costs. And this is kind of understandable. As a native Houstonian, I used to be able to depend on insurance costs that were going to be somewhere around $1,800 to $2,400 a year and not really have to worry about it all that much. But in the wake of the ice storms, the derecho, those terrible windstorms, hurricanes that did unusual damage to our area, what we experienced in the last 3 to 4 years were skyrocketing premiums on our carrying costs, right? So instead of something being $1,800 or $2,400 a year, we are looking at routinely bills that are $3,500 to $4,500 just for regular homeowners insurance. And the real kicker here is that it doesn't really get you anything. In fact, it gets you less. We used to be able to get our hands on 1 or 2% wind and hail deductibles. And now what it feels like is 2% or 3% wind and hail deductibles is really all you can get. So put differently, if you buy a $600,000 house, you are in it for at least $12,000 to $18,000 before insurance starts to cover a dime for any storm-related damage. Now, my sincere hope is that this gets better over time. But what I want every buyer to do is to understand that when they're going into a home, you need to have breathing room in your monthly or annual budget for what you can tolerate on variable expenses. We would love to see insurance costs come back down, but really I don't think it's going to go back down to that $1,800 to $2,400 annual range. I think we're kind of in it for this several $1,000s a year. Now, the fourth biggest complaint or regret that I hear from people moving to our particular area is that they didn't properly account for the climate. Now, everyone can go online and see average temperatures for June and July in Houston, Texas, but what they don't understand is how the humidity impacts the way that it actually feels, right? So we might have an average temperature in the mid-90s for most of the summer, but what that means for you with a humidity of 80-something% is that the heat index is actually above 100 degrees. Now, what this translates to is that if you want to do something as simple as walk your dog for 15 to 20 minutes, you can come back looking like you've taken a full shower when you get back to your front door. Now, this is not for everybody, and I would say it's particularly jarring for people that are coming from anywhere on the West Coast, any kind of arid climate, anywhere in Middle America. It's really very difficult for them to experience and understand how mid-90s can feel, honestly, punishing. So what's kind of funny to me about this is that if you go online and you Google walkability of Houston, Texas, like you'll get decent ratings. Like it'll say, there's all these great parks, there's all these great trails, there's all these interconnected walking paths and hundreds of miles of them. And that would lead you to believe, look, I can go walking, which is a totally rational thing to think. But the reality of it is as a native Houstonian, I would tell you that if you are going to want to walk anywhere, you're going to probably want to do it in the early morning hours or well after dusk. So if, for instance, you were wanting to move to a city where you can have a charming experience where you take your little trolley and walk down to the market or the grocery store, I would say that that's really like a pipe dream. So as you're making your plan towards moving towards the Katy area, if you Google and you see what's it like there weather-wise, I would say put a big fat asterisk on top of it and say humidity is going to change that entirely. Make sure that you are not expecting when you move here to have a really wonderful outdoor walking experience. Now, a workaround for this, of course, is real estate related. If you think about how to manage the heat, how do people do it? Here in Houston, a lot of people choose homes with pools. If you were to do a Google aerial view of any particular neighborhood, you're going to see probably 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 2, in some cases more, homes are going to have private pools right in their backyard. We actually made the move to our home a few years ago specifically for the pool. Even just seeing that water adds an element of what we call visual coolness that kind of helps with dealing with the heat here in Houston. Now, a fifth mistake or regret that I'll hear from buyers is that they didn't properly plan for increased expenses. And these are kind of sneaky or a little bit hidden. So the first one I want to cover is electricity costs. Now, one of the great benefits of moving to Houston is that you're in the energy capital of the world and you get to choose your energy provider. So most energy contracts will say, you're going to spend 11 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour, which sounds pretty good until you realize you're probably going to blow through 2,000 kilowatt hours very easily. In Houston, we run our air conditioning units probably 10 months of the year. Maybe a little bit more. And those units are drawing the absolute maximum power in a home. Now, you, of course, can have double pane windows and better insulation and all these things, but very frequently homes have 2 AC units. So in peak months, I would say it has been a sticker shock situation for folks to see how high their energy bills can go. Now, I live in about 3,300 square feet. We do have 2 air conditioners. We do have the 11 cents per kilowatt hour. A bad month for us, I would say, is something in the low 300s. An average month for us, I would say, is below 200. And that is my husband and I partially working from home most days of the week. So something to be mindful of as a hidden expense. The other thing that I want to point out is that people will often say that they didn't realize that toll roads were so prevalent in Houston, Texas. And I completely understand this. I was almost today years old when I figured out that Beltway 8 was the same thing as the West Houston Sam Houston Tollway, right? Or that 45 was the same thing as like the Hardy Toll Road, right? Like every one of these major thoroughfares has toll roads attached to them where you can bypass the majority of the traffic. But like, let's say you're commuting from Katy all the way downtown. You can take the toll road, but it's going to cost you $7 each way. You do $14 a day, 5 days a week. That's $70 added to your weekly bill. Now, if you're going around Grand Parkway or the West Park Toll or Beltway 8, all of those things carry tolls. And those little toll tags are sneaky. They will charge you $40 at a time, which is very easy to ignore if you're only doing it once or twice a month. But if you're blowing through $40 every couple of days, this is a very significant expense for your overall household, especially with 2 drivers. So the hack there, of course, is to try to get non-peak commuting hours or to live not on top of 2 or 3 different toll roads, right? You as someone who is relocating to the Katy area probably needs to spend a decent amount of time picking where you're going to live according to not the physical distance that you look at on a map, but how congested each one of those major highways is going to be. So if you're someone who's looking to commute, let's say more than 20 miles each way, I would say you would definitely want to pick a place to live where you're not having to get on 3 different major highway systems in a given commute. Living in Katy really is a wonderful thing, but it does take some significant planning so you don't end up with buyer's remorse. Fortunately for you, I help people do this all the time, and I would love to consult with you on how to make sure that you are happy whenever you land here in Katy. If you're thinking about relocating to the West Houston area, I would love to be your realtor. Make sure to check the description below where you can find my direct contact information. And if you found value in the information you heard here today, make sure to click the link below and subscribe because we put content like this out every single week. See you soon.